Thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you for watching the videos. My name is Christopher Shepherd, President of the NAFC, and I'd like to introduce the chair of our AGM, Geraldine King.
Miigwech, Chris. So before we start, we'll just acknowledge that the work that we're doing here in Ottawa, everyone else is gathered in other Indigenous traditional territories, but I just want to say miigwech to the Omama Winawak Nishnabek, where this land we are not only gathering on, but being better Nishnabes in the ways that we can to value this land and make sure that while we're here, that we leave something better. But having said that, I'd first like to ask Grandmother Irene to bless all of the delegates and everyone that's gathered here today with a prayer. She already blessed us, so we're getting double blessed. Miigwech, Grandmother.
Welcome. Welcome. Good afternoon, everybody. And we asked the Creator to guide us through today. And my name is Grandmother Irene Lindsay. I'm from the Wolf. Oops. I was born in One Arrow, Bataw, Saskatchewan, and I went to the residential school for 8 years in Dublin, Saskatchewan. I'm a mother of 6, grandmother of 9, and 6 great grandchildren. My spirit name is Nikolai Woman. I'm from the United Cree Nation. It's an honor to be here today to honor all of you that are doing such hard work and good work in all across Canada. And I always pray for you because I know how hard you work. I've seen you in action for so many years. So we ask the Creator to keep our elders safe today. And our children, the ones that are out and cold and hungry, we ask the Creator to send those little ones back to us so we can give them a better life. And for our people and our spirit, excuse me, the women that are gone before about the spirit helpers. Let us ask the Creator to keep those people safe, the girls that are working hard for this, and also our people that are dying of AIDS, our people that are dying of AIDS, may they have loved ones that pass on the Creator's kingdom, and there's only love and peace there for them. And for us that are here today, let us ask the Creator to keep us safe. And I'm getting all mixed up here, excuse me. To keep us safe as we do our work every day, and for us to be always aware how much work we do, and when we're tired, we stop and rest and start over again. Because when we get down, it's a long time before we get working again. So let us ask the Creator, thank you for this day, and let us have a good day.
Miigwech. Miigwech, Grandmother Irene. I know we threw you for a loop there asking for 2 prayers, so we appreciate that.
You're not mixed up there.
No, it's not mixed up. It's beautiful. Miigwech. So as Chris mentioned, I'm Geraldine King. I'll be the chairperson today. I'm a member of Keashkizagin and Anishinabek, located in Northwestern Ontario, but have been around the Friendship Centers my whole life and consider myself hopefully a good citizen of the Friendship Center movement. So I'll be here today to help direct all the conversations and everything that will occur as we move forward in this hybrid process that unfortunately was thrust upon everybody. It's not the most desirable or ideal way to have your AGM, but let's just all commit to try to doing the best that we can, given that we're going to have, all of these separate things to handle as we move along. So we appreciate your patience. We're going to do our best to make sure that this runs as smoothly as possible, given what we have to contend with. So miigwech again, welcome to everybody, and let's kick off your 50th AGM. We'd like to start first by having a pre-recorded video of Her Excellency, the Right Honourable Mary Simon.
Hello, bonjour, Urlu Hatsiagachi. I regret that we couldn't gather in person to celebrate your 50th anniversary and the opening of your annual general meeting. My thoughts are with all British Columbians, particularly those who have lost a loved one, as you continue to feel the impact of the flooding. And thank you to those who are lending a helping hand. Even though we are far apart today, you have still found a way to bring people together. That is what friendship centers do best. For 50 years, you have supported Indigenous peoples, especially those living in urban area centers. For many, you're their first point of contact. Le Centre d'Amitié soutient le peuple autochtone de nombreuses façons, notamment celles qui vivent dans le centre urbain. Ils sont pour plusieurs le premier point de contact. During the pandemic, you rose to meet a new challenge, extending your support to thousands. You provided food baskets, prepared meals, and distributed wellness packages. You gave board games, books, and movies to children unable to see their friends. You nurtured joy and play during a difficult time. This was not the only challenge you confronted. The discovery of unmarked graves of children who died in the residential school system reopened many wounds. It reignited the need to focus on our mental wellness and on reconciliation. Reconciliation is a journey with no end date, nor is it simply one activity. It is acts of understanding, respect, and healing. It is work that spans generations. It is lighting a spark so that the truth of our history can be told. Friendship centers have shown resilience and creativity in advancing these goals, in improving the lives of Indigenous peoples. This has also been your story for the past half century. From staff to volunteers to supporters, all of you have worked hard to make friendship centers a place for all peoples to come together, share traditions, and learn from one another. That fills me with hope for the future. I know that you will continue to be beacons of wellness and reconciliation in the lives of Indigenous peoples. Let us walk that path together. Thank you for all that you do. Merci pour tous vos efforts. Miigwech nakormek.
Thank you for all your efforts, Miigwech.
Okay, Kuya Namik, Her Excellency. I know she can't hear me, but it's just thrilling to have her open up a meeting and have her in the position that she is. So now we have online joining us a message from Minister Patty Hajdu, who is the Minister of Indigenous Services Canada.
Hello, everyone. Kwekwe, bonjour. I understand this meeting has been opened by Elder Grandmother Irene, and I want to thank, of course, Grandmother Irene and all the elders who take time out of their days to open us in a good way. C'est un honneur pour moi d'être ici virtuellement avec des employés, des bénévoles, des aînés, des jeunes, des membres de la communauté et d'autres invités du Centre d'Amitié. President Christopher Shepherd and the entire Volunteer Executive Committee and Board of Directors, thank you so much for the warm welcome. I'm really thrilled to be here. Today, I am in Ottawa. I'm speaking from the traditional and unceded territory of the Algonquin people, but I live and I work and play in the traditional territory of the Fort William First Nation and the Robinson Superior Treaty area. First, I'd like to just talk a little bit about our friends and our loved ones and our colleagues in BC. And I'd like to acknowledge just how challenging the last couple of weeks have been for communities that have been so significantly impacted by the catastrophic flooding and landslides. So many of you have friends and family that are deeply impacted by this disaster, and it's an extremely difficult time for many in the region, and certainly those of us that are not in the region are thinking and working hopefully hard beside you to help manage not just the crisis, but also the upcoming rebuild and climate resiliency work that's ahead of us. And my department, Indigenous Services Canada, is working in partnership with First Nations leaders, the First Nations Leadership Council, the First Nations Emergency Services Society, and the First Nations Health Authority, as well as Emergencies Management BC. And really through the lens that Indigenous communities have what they need to keep their members safe and supported immediately, also have the voice and the autonomy to have a say in how the rebuild happens. And of course, that urgent work right now to support people, Indigenous peoples in urban and city centers, as well as in rural communities. Indigenous Services Canada is working with many, many federal departments in what we would call a whole of government response, pulling out all the stops to provide assistance in partnership with the province of BC. And I know that the friendship centers in BC and across the country have shown outstanding leadership in this space, but not just in this emergency, certainly through COVID-19, the wildfires that have affected so many Indigenous people, and now of course the flooding that we're seeing. And this is a tradition of friendship centers, helping people in need, stepping up when there are gaps in responses. And I think the response to the recent flooding is a prime example of this. You've opened your doors to stranded travelers. You've stepped up to do what you do best, taking care of people. And it's through quick action, strong leadership, ongoing work. You know, this is the kind of legacy and the reputation that friendship centers have across the country. And I want to thank you again for your ongoing commitment. And I will say, I know a little bit about the work of friendship centers, having a very wonderful friendship center in Thunder Bay, the Thunder Bay Indigenous Friendship Center, which has been in our community for many decades. And I've seen the work that friendship centers have, that you do every day, but that you've done over decades to help rebuild connections for people to their cultural roots, and many times providing key support and services to help people recover from trauma, to help rebuild their lives, to help gain new skills, to help move things forward for their families and their children. And each friendship center is unique, I understand that, but they're all united in their efforts to improve the quality of life for Indigenous peoples and to protect and preserve Indigenous culture. And it's 50 years that you've done this, lending this helping hand and a place, safe places where people can go to have coffee and socialize, and the many direct services that support urban Indigenous peoples. It is really neat to see how the National Association of Friendship Centers have grown from really a grassroots initiative to a national force that serves more than 1 million people, providing over 1,200 programs at 238 locations all over the country. And this is really impressive. And I know this personally firsthand because many of your centers are completely run and driven by volunteers. And your work cannot be understated in keeping the centers going and tapping into that volunteer workforce and those committed individuals that help ensure that people are supported who walk through your doors. And I believe that this commitment by not just the Indigenous friendship centers themselves, but the volunteers that serve in those centers will mean that your organizations will continue to flourish over the next 50 years, especially as we see more and more Canadians learning about Indigenous communities and the challenges that colonization has created for Indigenous people and the importance of reconciliation. And I really, really hearken and want to hopefully remind all Canadians through the role that I have of the importance of the words that we just heard Her Excellency, our Governor General, say, which is that reconciliation has no end date. This is about deepening and strengthening relationships, honoring treaties, learning new ways of being together. I'd also like to highlight your important role through COVID-19 pandemic as a trusted source of information, and also the immense work that you did and continue to do to provide culturally safe and appropriate spaces for vaccinations to happen. I certainly saw that partnership in our communities. Your efforts were key and continue to be to reach Indigenous people in urban and city centers in the national vaccine rollout. And you do that work with compassion and with kindness and in a way that's culturally safe and relevant, which is at the root of helping people who are afraid of what vaccination means feel more comfortable and be able to step forward towards accepting this life-saving treatment. So I know that we can continue to work together as we begin rolling out vaccines to children in the coming months. And I look forward to hearing from you what is working and what is not, and how we can help amplify the work that you're doing in that space. And over the past 18 months, I also know that you've been supported in that really important work through the Indigenous Community Support Fund. These investments have helped ensure urban Indigenous people have food on their table, a safe space to reduce their exposure to COVID-19. But I also know that outside of COVID, there's so much ongoing work that needs to be done. And so today I'm happy to announce here that funding for the Urban Programming for Indigenous Peoples program, fondly referred to as UPIP, will remain at the same levels for the coming fiscal year. Collaborating with Indigenous partners is key to meeting urban needs, and that's why we'll continue to work with you in the coming weeks and months to identify more sustainable renewal options for UPIP. I do want to say on a side note, having been involved in not-for-profit, that I fully understand the importance of predictable and sustained funding, and so we'll be looking at ways that we can pursue that together. Additionally, in the coming weeks, $2.5 million will be provided to the National Association of Friendship Center to support minor infrastructure projects. And there will be a call out for UPIP major infrastructure submissions launching shortly, so stay tuned for that. I know the Friendship Centers are also leaders in the work to eradicate violence by providing culturally safe spaces, services, and programs for women, girls, and gender diverse people. Since most urban service delivery organizations are led by women, you know in very deep ways what's needed to address the systemic violence against women, girls, and 2S LGBTQIA+ people. I'd like to highlight the integral role played by the National Association of Friendship Centers in developing the urban component of the National Action Plan on Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women, Girls, and Two-Spirited People National Action Plan. You made important contributions, and you're ensuring that key issues and realities are included in the plan. And we'll be leaning on you for your expertise and leadership as we move forward on the implementation of the National Action Plan together with Indigenous partners, families, survivors, and governments at all levels. So again, thank you for your work. And I want you to know that I am deeply familiar with the work that Friendship Centers provide across the country and how important your services, your people are to Indigenous people that are living in urban spaces. You provide those safe and positive experiences for First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people to connect with their culture and identities. You lift up the voices of oftentimes the people who have the least power to be heard, and you ensure that people have what they need physically, mentally, spiritually, no matter where they live. So I'm grateful for the work that you do every day, and I look forward to continuing our relationship together. Miigwech, kuyanamik, merci, thank you, merci.
Miigwech, Minister Hajdu, for being here today and sharing these wonderful acknowledgements for all the work that Friendship Centers do across this country. So Miigwech. We're going to move on to a pre-recorded message from National Chief Roseanne Archibald.
Hi everyone, National Chief Roseanne Archibald here, and I'm happy to be bringing you this video message. First, I would like to acknowledge the Creator, the world around us, and our place within it. I'm coming to you today from the unceded, unsurrendered territory of the Algonquin Nation, and I acknowledge all of you on your traditional territories today. I'm honored to give opening remarks for this year's annual meeting of the National Association of Friendship Centers. I acknowledge all of the hard work that everyone associated with the Friendship Centers has done in keeping our cultures and traditions alive in urban centers across the country for the past 50 years. The Friendship Center movement is the country's most significant urban Indigenous service delivery infrastructure, but it's so much more. As most of you know, the Friendship Centers hold a special place in my heart as they remind me of my parents. The great work of the Friendship Centers has continued on for generations. The vision, the support, and the love remain the same. I'd like to acknowledge all of your hard work over the past year. The pandemic has impacted all aspects of our lives, from our social connections, work, education, home aspects, medical care, travel, and our ability to gather in ceremony. Many of us have lost loved ones through COVID-19 and other illnesses and mental unwellness. And some of us have had to delay our traditional collective grieving processes because of the pandemic. As a First Nation support in urban centers, the adjustments did not come easy. It took a lot of hard work and transition. The 9-to-5 job was not a 9-to-5 job because of the support needed on the ground. Frontline workers are not only healthcare workers, but people helping to keep others safe. And that is what the Friendship Centers has done. Thank you for all contributing to a healing path forward for First Nations. I'm grateful to all of you. Have a great meeting. Nenanaskamun, Gisakiten.
Miigwech National Chief Archibald. Now we'll move on to a pre-recorded message from Cassidy Caron, President of the Métis National Council.
Tansei Kioao. I would like to offer my prayers to all families and communities across the country who are facing extreme challenges with regard to the natural disasters our country is seeing right now. I really hope that everyone is staying safe and taking care of one another. As the newly elected president of the Métis National Council, I want to begin by congratulating the National Aboriginal Friendship Centers on the milestone that you have achieved. That is your 50th annual meeting, as well as your 32nd Youth Forum. I was reading through the NAFC strategic plan and stopped to reflect on a quote by one of your youth council members who said, "We do what we do because of the love we have for our people." That is certainly why I became involved, first as a young person within the Métis Nation, and now as the president of the Métis National Council. We have so much opportunity ahead of us to work together so that Indigenous people are connected to community and culture no matter where they live. I look forward to future collaboration that we can do, the NAFC and the Métis National Council. Our offices in Ottawa are just 1 block away from each other. And as an elder once shared with me, relationships are built over 100 cups of tea. So please come over, let's have tea, and find ways to support our families and communities together. Have a great meeting, and I hope to one day soon be able to gather with you all in person again. Thank you and take care.
Merci, Cassidy. Now we will move over to an online message from Her Worship, Mayor Lisa Helps, the Mayor of Victoria. Joining us live, sorry.
Thank you very much. Very good to be here with all of you. I am in Victoria, British Columbia, and those are the traditional homelands of the Lekwungen speaking people, the Songhees and the Esquimalt nations. And we're working really closely as a city with the two nations in a really deep process of reconciliation that is Indigenous led, Indigenous informed. And I'm grateful and humbled every day to walk on their homelands and to be received here with such generosity, even after everything that has happened and that continues to happen. It's an honor to be here to address you this morning, morning for me, I guess early afternoon for you. And the reason I am here as the Mayor of Victoria is because your event was supposed to be held in Victoria on Lekwungen territory. And we're really sad that you weren't able to make it, and grateful that you are able to gather in a hybrid form today to celebrate your good work across our nation over the last 50 years. We have a very strong relationship with the Victoria Native Friendship Center, and I just like to give a shout out to their board and their executive director, Ron Rice. They do a phenomenal job here in our region, taking care of urban Indigenous people and creating a sense of community, connection, belonging, all of the good things that others have already talked about in terms of service delivery during the pandemic, during the time of crisis. I just wanted to give you two examples of some work that we do with the Victoria Native Friendship Center so you can see the impact that the Native Friendship Center is having and that Native Friendship Centers across the country are having in terms of building bridges and relationships between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people walking those decades-long path of reconciliation. In Victoria, a few years ago, we developed a senior strategy so that we can make sure that as we deliver programs and services, that they are attuned to the needs of people as they age. And we had a couple of elders from the Victoria Native Friendship Center sit on our senior strategy committee task force, and their input was really, really valuable. And then the whole seniors task force came to City Hall to make a presentation to council. And I had an opportunity afterwards to speak with the elders and just really understood from their point of view how important it was to be included in a municipal process, to bring their wisdom, to bring their cultural wisdom, so that as we're developing a senior strategy, we're taking into consideration the needs of Indigenous elders and seniors. And so that was really, really powerful, I think, for them and for us. At the very other end of the spectrum, we had an event just in October, and Cindy Blackstock had come to Victoria a few years ago and wrote a children's book, well, Spirit Bear, her teddy bear, her reconciliation bear. She and Spirit Bear wrote a book about the removal of the John A. Macdonald statue in front of Victoria City Hall. And this, again, predates the recent statue removals. We removed the statue in 2018, and we did so for very good reason, working with the Songhees and Esquimalt nations. Cindy came and she brought her children's book, and we invited daycare classes from the Victoria Native Friendship Center, age 4 and 5, as well as some classes from a local elementary school that has a high Indigenous population. And Cindy came and read her book, and then each of the kids got a copy of their book, of their Spirit Bear and Cindy's book. And each classroom at the Victoria Native Friendship Center and the elementary school, they got their own teddy bear. Spirit Bear had given each classroom a teddy bear and a copy of the book. And our ongoing commitment is that we, myself, as well as the classrooms from the Victoria Native Friendship Center and the schools, our bears are going to meet again in January. So I'll go out to the Victoria Native Friendship Center, and we're going to talk about what we're going to continue to do together on the path of reconciliation. So I just wanted to give you those examples because for me, they're really heartfelt, really concrete ways of working together, local governments along with Victoria Native Friendship Center, and I imagine local governments and Native Friendship Centers across the country. So I will leave it there. I wish you all the best for your meeting today. A huge shout out to all the tech people who make it smooth going back and forth from live to online, because that is difficult. And yeah, heartfelt thank you for giving me an opportunity to share a bit of time with you this morning.
Thank you, Mayor Helps, for those words. And, you know, as much as we wish we could be gathering there with everyone, we're sending our best wishes for the urgent and tragic situations that are happening in BC right now. So miigwech for that. Coming to us live now is Melanie Omeniho from the president of the Métis, Women of the Métis Nation.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for inviting me. It's an honor for me to be here. I am the president of La Femme Michifotepimsawak, which is Women of the Métis Nation. And I'm really grateful to be able to come and honor the work of the National Association of Friendship Centers and all the friendship centers across this country for 50 years of amazing work that they've done and whose footprint can be felt everywhere. I'm speaking today from Ottawa, the traditional lands of the Algonquin and the Métis, and even the Ottawa Métis Council that exists here. And I want to let you know, though, my traditional homeland is Lac St. Anne in Alberta and the home of Treaty 6. but I've come to visit in your great lands over here for a bit. I want to thank the elder for her amazing prayer this morning and to start out you all off in a very good way. I too was disappointed to hear that we couldn't go to Victoria, but as in Friendship Center style, you guys always put the community first, and I so appreciate and support that in the fact that you are supporting the Indigenous people as well as the community in British Columbia who's struggling with the trauma of what's happened to them during these floods. I want to tell you that I really appreciated the Governor General's words on reconciliation. But if there's anything that has taught me for many, many years about what reconciliation really is it's been the movement of the Friendship Center. They, long before reconciliation was a fashionable word to be used, were practicing those kinds of values and supports within all of our communities. And for that, I have a great deal of respect and appreciation for all of you. I had a history with the Friendship Center many years ago, which only just tells you how old I am because it was decades ago myself now, but I was the executive director of the Edmonton Canadian Native Friendship Center. And I have always appreciated and respected the work. And much like what was said earlier, it's based on the volunteers and love and passion of a community. And before I got started doing the work that I'm doing now, very often it was friendship centers that were the voice and the lens of Indigenous women and families. And for that, I have nothing but great respect for the space that you held to try to protect and make sure that those families were healthy and had the needs that they had met. So it's a diverse cultural relationship that you guys have within our urban communities. And I have nothing but appreciation and support for all of that. For many urban and Métis families, friendship centers are a lifeline and part of the fabric of their lives. We appreciate the hard work and the commitment of the National Association of Friendship Center to ensure that our people are able to safely connect and access services through friendship centers all across Canada. Again, I'm honored to congratulate you on your amazing milestone of the 50th anniversary. And we wish you a very productive and dynamic annual meeting and are pleased to be a part of the vision for the Indigenous peoples of Canada, including Métis, First Nations and Inuit, and urban Indigenous people, and supporting community cultures and connection. And thank you very much.
Marcy, Melanie. That wraps up our opening remarks and messages for today. I'd like to thank everyone, Big Miigwech, for sharing your insights, for sharing your opening remarks. And I'd especially like to acknowledge the leadership of Indigenous women and youth who helped open us up today. So that, as I mentioned, that concludes our opening remarks, and I'd like to officially call the meeting to order. Having said that, we're going to move over to our roll call point on the agenda, and I'll hand that over to Edith Cloutier, the NAFC Secretary.
Merci. Oui, bonjour, chers collègues. Hello, everyone. Special acknowledgement to our brothers and sisters in BC. Our warmest thoughts goes to the BC Association and all of our Friendship Center families in BC. So I will now call the roll call by province. So do I have I'm supposed to have a PowerPoint? All right, here we go. So roll call by province and territory. So for Alberta, 58, BC, Atlantic, sorry, 12, BC, 39 voting delegates. Manitoba, 29 voting delegates. Northwest Territories, Nunavut, 14. Quebec, 21. Saskatchewan, 23 voting delegates. Yukon, 2. And there we go. So we have, do we have a total? 198. That's a total? 198 total voting. So quorum is 100. Thank you. Quorum is 100, so we do have quorum.
So now we have to have, we accept the recording secretary. Okay, so at this time, we would like to. Sorry. Oh, those are the first. Okay, so first we'll go through some housekeeping, again, acknowledging and thanking everyone for shifting as quickly as we could onto this hybrid meeting. The platform that we're using is Chime Live. You should be able to see that. You're in the meeting. I can see what's happening on that site right now. So there's many elements of this meeting that kind of don't fit well for virtual meeting. And that's just because how everything had to move so quickly into this, doing the best that we can. But however, there are going to be delays. So there's approximately a 30-second delay when it comes to people engaging in the conversation or coming to the virtual stage. We're doing our best on the back end to try to mediate that, to mitigate that. However, there may be the off chance, a rare occurrence where somebody wasn't heard or somebody was missed, but rest assured that we're doing the best that we can. And once that's signaled, we will make sure that everybody has had the opportunity to come forward, whether that's speaking to motions and what have you. But just please bear with us in the fact that we do have a delay with respect to our broadcasting and it converting to Chime Live. But we've thought this through the best that we can. And again, just please be patient with us and let us know if you know anybody's missed or anything has happened that due to that delay. One thing we're going to ask is that please speak clearly and state which Friendship Center or PTA you are from. And, you know, every time that you come to speak or you're engaged in a conversation, could you identify yourself by your name and whether you're a voting delegate or an observer, whether you're elder, Senate, staff, etc. Of course, being online and in virtual, we can't see who's speaking, where normally we would have some acknowledgement and recognition of who's coming up to speak at the mic. Because this is a virtual mic, that's not possible. We won't actually see a video of you. So don't take it personally if we say, who is this again? You're like, it's me. You've known me for 40 years. We just can't see you. So just keep that in mind. And again, thank you. So just, you know, identify yourself. And again, when you identify yourself by name, we would most likely be able to determine who you are, but let's just keep this process this way so that nobody's missed, nothing's missed on the minutes and so on. This meeting is available in both English and French, and you can choose the language of your choice. On the Chime Live site, there is a section to choose whether English or French, and you don't have to worry about toggling back and forth. We know that over COVID for the last 2 years, sometimes there's been online meetings where as soon as someone speaks in the language that you don't understand, you have to go switch into another room. Don't worry about all that. It's being taken care of for you. The interpreters will do that for you. So the interpreters for this meeting are Robert Rebselch and Carol Dumouchel. If you need to change the language for Chime Live, after you've selected it, in the top right of Chime Live, you could change the language that you require. So right now you might be thinking, what is she saying? Because you can't understand. So I hope in some way that you can understand where to go in Chime Live if you don't understand the language that's being spoken. And again, just asking for some patience as we move through this, but we'll do our best to navigate this in the best way that we can. Now, it's really important to note that if you like to add to the discussion during the motions, so when motions are occurring, you select the point module in Chime Live. Now, I'm just trying to see where it is there. on the side.
Yeah, it's on the
In the bar. So you see the bar to your left here. If you scroll, there should be a way to say point right after welcome. You'd think with my big glasses I'd see better, but I don't. So anyhow, it's there. If you're having trouble, just let us know. However, that's where you're going to enter into on a virtual stage. So what's going to happen is you might see that the platform will close your main stage window. So you're viewing us right now in the main stage. Once you go to that point module, it's going to close that, and you're going to be launched into a Zoom call where you'll be greeted by an encore technician. So the encore technicians are the ones who are helping us navigate this today. They'll let you know when you're up next. They'll let you know kind of where you're at, because you're going to be taken from the main stage. And it's important to note that that point module will only be available during certain times, largely during the motions or when we're having points of discussion. And it has a maximum queue of delegates that can join. So in the physical world, that would be you stepping up to the mic in the grand ballroom. But at this point, don't fret, don't get worried if you step up to that point module, which is the virtual mic, and you're all of a sudden not in the meeting chime live anymore. You're just being shifted into another room. Again, just being very thankful that this may seem tedious, and it may seem that it's not flowing well, but we're doing the best that we can. Just some messages on the side there. You should be able to see that you can view the agenda on that tab. There should be the AGM kit. I do see that. So if you need any of your materials, it's there. There's some information on the resources tab. You can click on the attendee hub, and you can put a profile on there about yourself. There's e-business cards. You could do that by connecting with one another. Of course, we would do that in the process of visiting and networking live. You can click on chat to network, and that will be chatting with other conference participants. One thing that we'd really like to see, again, because we're not going to see your faces at all unless you come in, I believe, into the point module and we see you on Zoom. I'm not sure. However, there's a selfie station. So feel free to go in there, take selfies. You may be with a group of people in one room right now. Let us try to make this feel as live as possible. We want to see your selfies because this will all become a part of our reporting afterwards, and also just trying to get some sense of being with one another. There's a tech support that will connect you to a member of the Encore team to ask any questions regarding the Chime Live platform only. So they're there to help you. And if you want to take some notes as we go along, you can click on the My Notes tab, and then you can save it. You can also send that to yourself afterwards. So as we're going through the Chime Live, you could be in your notes and it'll send it to you after. So we're hoping that, that sidebar is intuitive for you, that you're able to ask questions, that you have access to tech support in this online platform. So we're going to talk a little bit about the smart ballot voting process. You should have received a guide that tells you step by step how to engage in the electronic, safe, secure voting process. Just a reminder for people who may be wondering, well, where's my email? First of all, you would have been sent an email to the address that you provided when you registered, and that is your email ballot to vote. There was a reminder email sent out this morning at 8:23 Eastern Standard Time. So if you're looking through your email boxes or junk email boxes or whatever it is, try to look for something that came around 8:23 if you didn't find your ballot. If for some reason you have not received a ballot after you look through the various boxes and you tried to find one from 8:23, you can reach Patrick Marshall, who is the smart ballot election officer for this process. Their phone number is 604-330-3853. He's the only one who is supporting the election. So just kind of, be patient if there's a large sequence of numbers. If you're finding it difficult that you can't get through, or the lineup's just too long, you can email Shadi Hafez, who's the NAFC staff technician, and he's assisting Patrick. He'll signal to us if there's something going wrong. and you can get a hold of him at shafez@nafc.ca. So miigwech, again, if you have any questions, please contact the people responsible for Smart Ballot or the people responsible for Encore if you're having technical difficulties. And at this point, we'll move into the acceptance of the recording secretary. So we'd like to ask for a motion. And again, if you're coming up to identify yourself as motioning or seconding, you come in through the point module. Again, it's delayed. So I'm gonna have a signal when that comes through, a live signal, and we will wait. Off that, what this means is there might be some dead air, there might be dead time while we're waiting, but rest assured, you're coming in. So at this point, I'd like to ask for a motion to accept Melissa McKelvey as the recording secretary for the NAFC 50th virtual annual meeting. This is motion 2021-1101. Can we have someone motion to accept the recording secretary? And again, identify yourself, your name, and your Friendship Center or PTA. Can we have a mover? Bunch of people that make someone reading this chat because I can't. There's people saying stuff. Happy 50th anniversary. There's a question. Yeah, that was something we already mentioned. Okay. If anybody would like to get ready, so we can begin to do that. So you're a mover. Okay, hi Ted. So you'll be our mover for this motion. At this point, we would like to ask for a seconder for this motion. Maybe just remind me again to push. And just push the point button if you're coming to move or second. And we'll ask for, when we're moving through the motions later, if you can, sort of be geared up or be queued up as we move along, but we'll discuss that a little bit more. Someone's asking, are we supposed to? It's okay, don't worry.
I will let you know if there's any.
Okay.
Okay, a second.
Oh, I heard a second.
I'm hearing my own voice being translated 30 seconds later.
Who's speaking? It's kind of low. Oh, Ted, okay. Yeah. I wonder if it's better to do it in that chat.
I think
To move
so.
it. Okay, let's tell
Can you repeat that? It was very low.
could you repeat that, James? Okay.
Yeah, it's two. Yeah, we can let people know we can use the Q&A as well. We just have to get through one painful motion. and
Yeah.
the rest will be easy.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, Georgette Arkin. Okay.
Repeat the mover.
Yeah. So on the motion to accept Melissa McKelvey as the recording secretary for NAFC's 50th annual virtual general meeting, this was moved by Ted Swan, seconded by Georgette Arcand. And unless there are any objections, which you can put in the Q&A if you object to this or have an abstention or any opposition, we'll consider the motion carried. Okay, so we're going to shift a little bit. This is our first time as well, despite our formal run through that we've done of this process. It seems that this is going to be a little bit more challenging with these delays than was anticipated. So as with everything throughout COVID and this hybrid meeting, we're going to pivot a little bit. I know everyone hates that word pivot, I do too, but we still have to do it. So what we're going to say is, yeah, 50 years from now, we're going to hear pivot and bring back all the memories. This process is a little bit more challenging than we anticipated. So we'd like to signal to our Encore technicians as well as the assembly that we're going to move to having movers and seconders type in the chat that you see on the Chime Live to the right of your screen. So identify yourself through typing. First of all, I want to thank Ted and Georgette for being the first people to test this process. You did wonderful. It was great. However, it is going to be a little more challenging than we expected. So from this point forward, unless anybody has an objection to it, we're going to move to using the Q&A on the chat function to identify yourself, name yourself, name your friendship center or your PTA, and whether you're moving or seconding, and we'll just simply choose the first people from that list and acknowledge it that way. And that is also the process that we will use when we call questions and ask for abstentions or objections. So if everyone's okay with that, we've considered this one moved, and we will accept that this motion has been accepted by consensus. One other point before we move on as well is that we're not asking for a raising of hands, or we're just going to assume that if people are not objecting, or if there's a handful of objections or abstentions, that the rest of the people have raised their hand and said yay, because again, we cannot see you and there's no function for you to raise your hand as you might have experienced in Zoom or other platforms. So again, procedural change in the meeting going forward, please use the chat function if you're moving or seconding. And again, a big thank you to Ted and Georgette for doing it and doing it well. So on to
that will
our,
be in the Slido module to the side of the webcast feed.
sorry, James, could you repeat that?
For the moving and seconding, that'll be in the Slido pane just to the right of the webcast for everyone.
Is that what we see right here?
Yeah.
That Q&A. Yeah, okay. So the Slido module is just to the right of the Chime webcast. It says NAFC at the top, ANCA. You'll see Q&A. That's where you can type in your moving and seconding. And I will acknowledge it verbally here. Someone will signal to me who those people are. Okay, thanks so much, James, for that clarification. So the next point on our agenda is to accept the agenda as proposed. This is a draft agenda. We'll be looking for a mover and a seconder to accept the proposed draft agenda. Again, just feel free to use the Slido/chat function on the right side of your Chime screen. And if you could state your name and your Friendship Center or PTA. So again, looking for a mover and a seconder to accept the proposed agenda.
So we have Tanya who will move from regroup mom. And David Gray from Manitoba Association of Friendship Centers. Second.
Okay, so we have Tanya Sirois from Regroupement who has moved to accept the proposed agenda. And this has been seconded by David Gray from the Manitoba Association of Friendship Centers. At this time, I would like, or I will offer questions to be called.
Yeah, you're just calling for any opposed or any abstentions. We don't need to call the question because can't call the question.
Right. Okay, that's correct, because we'll use the chat function as much as possible, unless somebody has an objection, they can bring it forward. Okay. Okay, So we're not hearing any oppositions or abstentions at this point. So we consider this motion to be carried, which is to accept the NAFC's 50th annual virtual meeting proposed agenda as presented, moved by Tanya Sirois, seconded by David Gray. So I've just been advised we need to go back to our first motion to accept Melissa McKelvey as recording secretary for the annual virtual meeting. One of the people that moved and seconded is not a voting delegate, so we'd like to call this to the assembly again, moving back to our first motion to accept Melissa McKelvey as the recording secretary. If we could have a mover and a seconder in the chat function, please. And please state your Friendship Center or your PTA. Miigwech.
Dakota McLeod from Saskatoon Inuit Friendship Center. And Bill Griffiths, seconds from Skookum Gym Friendship Center.
Okay, thank you, everyone. So with respect to the motion to accept the recording secretary, this was moved by Dakota McLeod, seconded by Bill Griffiths. And since there was no objections or abstentions in the first attempt at this motion, we'll consider it carried. Thank you very much, Dakota and Bill.